The massive council chamber stretched for miles in every direction, its crystalline walls pulsing with soft blue light. Thousands of alien beings filled the floating platforms, their strange forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes against the pristine white floor. Some looked like walking trees with silver bark, others resembled floating jellyfish made of pure energy, and a few appeared as geometric crystals that sang when they moved. At the center of it all, a towering figure, made of what looked like living glass, raised its hand for silence. This was Veltar, the oldest member of the Galactic Council, keeper of all the warnings that had kept civilizations safe for 40,000 years. Today we welcome our newest members, Veltar announced, its voice echoing through every translator. In the vast room, the humans of Earth have proven themselves worthy of joining our great alliance. Near the back of the chamber, 5 humans sat in chairs that seemed too small for the grandeur around them. Dr. Hannah Kim adjusted her simple black jacket and looked around with wide eyes, still amazed that her species had made it this far. Next to her, Captain Jin Park sat perfectly still, his military training keeping him calm even in this incredible place. But with membership comes responsibility, Veltar continued, and suddenly the cheerful mood in the chamber grew cold. There are places in this galaxy that no intelligent being should ever go. Places where ships vanish without a trace, and reality itself breaks apart. A hologram appeared above the crowd, showing a section of space that hurt to look at. Stars seemed to bend and twist, creating spirals of light that moved in impossible directions. Space itself looked sick, like a photograph that had been torn and badly taped back together. The Maelstrom sector, Veltar said, and every alien in the chamber moved backward, as if the name itself was dangerous. For 40 millennia, we have marked this region as forbidden. No exceptions. No exploration. No contact. Dr. Hannah Kim leaned forward, her scientist's mind immediately curious about what could scare thousands of advanced alien species. She pulled out a small notebook and began sketching the twisted shapes she saw in the hologram. The Zephyrians were the first to try, Veltar explained, as new images appeared. The Zephyrians looked like giant birds, made of metal and starlight. They sent their greatest explorers, beings who had mapped half the galaxy. 3 ships entered the Maelstrom. None returned. We found pieces of their vessels scattered across normal space, but the pieces were ... wrong. Metal that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Computer core that processed information backwards through time. A low humming filled the chamber as thousands of aliens expressed their fear in their own ways. Some changed colors, others vibrated, and a few simply dimmed their lights. The crystalline collective tried next, Veltar continued. Images showed beings that looked like walking diamonds, beautiful and perfect in their geometric forms. They built the most advanced artificial intelligence probes our galaxy has ever seen. Machines that could think faster than organic minds and survive in any environment. 50 probes entered the Maelstrom sector. The chamber waited in silence. We received one transmission, just for words. Logic does not apply. Then silence. Forever. Captain Jin Park noticed something interesting. While every alien in the chamber was showing signs of fear or discomfort, his fellow humans were taking notes, asking quiet questions, and studying the holographic displays with excitement rather than terror. Even the precursors, the ancient race that built the hyperspace gates we all use today, marked the Maelstrom as forbidden before they vanished from our galaxy, Veltar said. They left warnings in every language, on every world they touched. The same message, repeated endlessly: that which bends reality breaks those who enter. Dr. Tae-min, the youngest member of the human delegation, raised his hand. Several nearby aliens gasped at his boldness. Have you tried studying it from outside? Understanding the patterns of the distortion? Veltar's crystalline form flickered with what might have been surprise. Patterns. Child, there are no patterns in chaos. The maelstrom is pure disorder, the opposite of everything civilization stands for. It is entropy, given form, destruction wearing the mask of mystery. Lieutenant Su Young, sitting at the end of the human row, whispered to her companions, "But entropy follows rules. Chaos has mathematics. Everything in the universe has patterns, if you know how to look." Her words were quiet, but in the vast chamber with its perfect acoustics, every being heard them. A wave of shocked silence rippled outward from the human section. Valtar's form pulsed brighter, and when it spoke again, its voice carried a warning that chilled the air. "This is why we share these histories with new species, so that curiosity does not become extinction. The Maelstrom sector is forbidden to all council members. No ships, no probes, no contact of any kind. The price of disobedience is the loss of everything you hold dear." As the ceremony ended, and thousands of aliens filed out of the chamber, they gave the human section a wide berth, but the humans remained seated, still talking in low voices, still sketching diagrams, still asking questions that no sane species would ever ask. In the empty chamber, their voices echoed with dangerous possibility. 3 months had passed since the council's warning, but Dr. Hannah Kim could not stop thinking about the Maelstrom sector. Her small office on Earth's orbital research station was covered with papers, holographic displays, and coffee cups that had been forgotten for days. Every wall showed different images of the twisted space region that terrified the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "You need to sleep," said Dr. Tae Min as he entered the cluttered room carrying 2 fresh cups of coffee. "You have been working for 36 hours straight." Hannah looked up from her calculations, her eyes red, but bright with excitement. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a complex pattern of numbers floating in the air. "The council said there are no patterns, but they are wrong, dead wrong." On the main display, waves of energy from the Maelstrom sector danced in colors that shifted every few seconds. To most people, it looked like random chaos, but Hannah had been staring at it for weeks, and now she saw something different. Every 4 hours and 42 minutes, this wave pattern repeats, she explained, tracing lines in the air with her finger. "And here, see these quantum readings. They follow a mathematical sequence that was discovered on Earth 200 years ago. The aliens never found it because they were looking for their own mathematics, not ours." Taemin set down his coffee and studied the display more carefully. As a quantum physicist, he understood numbers better than words, and what he saw made his heart race. This is impossible. Chaos cannot have rules. But what if it does? Hannah asked. What if the Maelstrom is not really chaos at all, but order so complex that rigid minds cannot understand it? Before Tae-min could answer, the door opened and Lieutenant Su Young walked in wearing her flight suit. Behind her came Captain Jin Park, looking serious but curious. "We got your message," Jin said. "You said you found something important about the Forbidden Sector." Hannah nodded and activated a new set of displays. "I have been studying every record the Council gave us about ships that entered the Maelstrom. Look at how they flew." The display showed the path of a Zephyrian exploration vessel, represented by a green line moving through space. The line was perfectly straight, following standard navigation protocols in neat, predictable curves. "They flew like they were in normal space," Su Young observed. "Straight lines, calculated turns, everything by the book." "Exactly," Hannah said. "Every species that entered the Maelstrom used the same approach. They tried to impose order on chaos, to force their way through, using logic and rigid thinking. But what if that is exactly wrong?" She activated another display, this one showing theoretical flight paths that curved and twisted like a dance. What if the secret is not to fight the chaos, but to move with it? To think like the Maelstrom thinks? Jin studied the twisted paths. With his tactical mind, these flight patterns would be impossible with standard navigation systems. No computer could calculate routes that change every second. No alien computer, Taemin corrected, understanding dawning in his voice. But human pilots have always been different. We fly by instinct as much as by calculation. We adapt, we improvise, we survive in situations that would crash any automated system. Soo-young grinned, the expression of a pilot who had never met a challenge she did not want to try. You want to test this theory? The Council forbids any contact with the sector, Jin warned, though his voice carried more excitement than concern. The Council forbids ships from entering, Hannah corrected. They said nothing about sending a probe to the outer edge, just close enough to test our theories. For a moment, the four humans stood in silence, looking at the displays that showed a region of space where thousands of advanced civilizations had failed and died. Any reasonable species would walk away, would follow the wisdom of 40,000 years of warnings. But humans had never been particularly reasonable. The probe would need special sensors, Taemin said slowly. Equipment that could measure quantum fluctuations in real time. I can modify one of our deep space drones, Soo-young added. Install manual override controls so a human pilot could guide it if the automatic systems fail. And if the Council finds out? Jin asked. Hannah looked at her friends, these people who had followed her curiosity this far already. Then we proved that sometimes the right thing to do is the thing everyone else is afraid to try. 6 hours later, in the darkness of space beyond Earth's moon, a small probe launched toward the edge of the galaxy. Its destination was a region that had destroyed every ship that entered, a place where reality itself was said to break apart. But for the first time in 40,000 years, the probe was not trying to conquer the chaos. Instead, it was learning to dance with it in the research station. 4 humans watched their screens with the kind of excitement that had driven their species to explore every dangerous place on Earth and beyond. They were about to discover if human adaptability could succeed where alien logic had failed. The probe crossed into the outer boundary of the Maelstrom sector, and everything changed. The human ship Curiosity moved through space like a leaf dancing on an impossible wind. Captain Jin Park sat at the controls, but he was not really flying the ship in any way the Council would recognize. Instead, he was feeling his way through currents of twisted reality, letting his instincts guide him where logic would have failed. We just crossed the inner boundary, announced Dr. Taemin from his position at the science station. His instruments were showing readings that should not exist, numbers that changed even as he spoke them. According to these sensors, we are moving in 4 directions at once. Lieutenant Soo-young laughed from the pilot's secondary station, her hands dancing over controls that shifted their function every few minutes. The gravitational fields keep changing, but there is a pattern to the changes. It is like surfing a wave that keeps growing new peaks. Through the main viewing window, space itself looked broken. Stars stretched into ribbons of light, then snapped back to points, then became spirals that rotated in directions the human eye could not follow. Colors that had no names painted themselves across the darkness, and occasionally something that might have been a planet appeared for a few seconds before folding itself out of existence. Dr. Hannah Kim stood behind Jin's chair, watching her life's work unfold in real time. The probe data was correct, she said, her voice filled with wonder. The chaos does have rules, but you have to think like chaos to understand them. Where the alien ships had tried to fly straight lines through the maelstrom, the humans curved and twisted with the flow of distorted space. When gravity suddenly reversed itself, Soo-young rolled the ship to match. When time seemed to slow down in patches, Jin adjusted their speed to ride the temporal currents. Contact ahead, Taemin reported. Something large, maybe 2 kilometers across. It is not moving with the chaos patterns. Through the swirling madness of the maelstrom, a structure began to take shape. It looked like a crystal the size of a small moon, but its edges kept shifting between dimensions. One moment it appeared solid, the next it became transparent, and sometimes it seemed to exist in several places at once. That is impossible, Jin whispered. Nothing that large could stay stable in this environment. Unless it was built here, Hannah realized. Unless someone designed it specifically for this place. As the Curiosity approached the impossible structure, panels along its surface began to glow with soft golden light. The chaotic energy of the maelstrom seemed to calm around it, creating a bubble of almost normal space that their ship could safely enter. "We are being scanned," Su-young reported, but her voice carried curiosity rather than alarm. "Something is measuring us, but it does not feel hostile." The scan passed through the ship like warm sunlight, touching each crew member in turn. For a moment, Hannah felt as if something vast and ancient was looking directly into her mind, reading her thoughts and intentions with gentle care. Then the structure opened. A doorway large enough for their entire ship appeared in the crystal's surface, revealing a hangar bay that glowed with the same golden light. Jin guided the Curiosity inside, and as they crossed the threshold, the chaos of the maelstrom suddenly felt very far away. "Artificial gravity, breathable atmosphere," Min reported, his instruments finally showing readings that made sense. "The technology here is beyond anything in Council records." They landed on a platform that seemed to be made of liquid metal, solid enough to support their ship but flowing gently like water. Around them, the hangar stretched into darkness, filled with structures that hurt to look at directly because they seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. "Look at this," Su-young called from the airlock. She had opened the outer door and was breathing the alien air without any protection. "It tastes like mountain snow and starlight." One by one, the crew stepped out of their ship and into the ancient structure. The golden light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows but somehow making everything perfectly visible. "The builders were like us," Hannah said softly, running her hand along a wall that felt warm and alive under her touch. "They were explorers, people who saw mystery as an invitation rather than a threat." As they walked deeper into the structure, holographic displays began activating around them. Images appeared in the air, showing star maps, mathematical equations, and scenes of creatures that looked almost human but moved with grace that belonged in dreams. They left this place for someone, Jin realized. They built it as a test, waiting for a species that could navigate the chaos to find it. How many species tried? Taemin wondered aloud, as if answering his question. A new hologram appeared. It showed hundreds of different alien ships, all following the same rigid patterns, all trying to force their way through the maelstrom using logic and technology. Ship after ship was torn apart by forces they could not understand or adapt to. Then the display showed the Curiosity, dancing through the chaos like it belonged there. "We are the first," Hannah whispered. "In 40,000 years, we are the first to think like the maelstrom instead of fighting it." The structure around them pulsed with welcoming light, and deeper in its crystal heart, ancient machines began to wake up after sleeping for longer than human civilization had existed. The deeper they walked into the crystal structure, the more it seemed to welcome them. Walls that had been dark for thousands of years began glowing with soft light as the humans passed. Ancient machines hummed to life, and holographic displays flickered into existence, showing star charts and mathematical equations that rewrote themselves in human languages as they watched. Dr. Hannah Kim placed her hand on a smooth panel that pulsed with warm energy. The moment she touched it, the air around them filled with images of incredible beauty. Tall, graceful beings with silver skin and eyes like deep space moved through scenes of exploration and discovery. They looked almost human, but they moved like dancers, every gesture flowing with perfect harmony. "The first wanderers," Hannah whispered, as knowledge flowed directly into her mind from the ancient computers. They called themselves the first wanderers, and they explored the galaxy before any of the current council species even existed. Captain Jin Park studied the tactical displays that were appearing around them. Energy conduits stretched through, dimensions he could barely understand, connecting this structure to power sources that existed in folded space. These readings are impossible. They are drawing energy from places that do not exist in normal reality. Dr. Tae-min was practically dancing with excitement as he interfaced with quantum blueprints that made Earth's most advanced technology look like stone tools. Look at this propulsion system. They were not just traveling through space. They were traveling through the spaces between spaces. They could reach any point in the galaxy instantly. Lieutenant Su Young had found what looked like a flight simulator, but when she sat in the pilot's seat, it showed her how to navigate through dimensions that twisted reality itself. They built ships that could ride quantum storms like we ride ocean waves. They did not conquer space, they danced with it. The holographic records continued to play around them, telling a story that no council species had ever imagined. The first wanderers had been explorers like humans, but they had taken their curiosity to its ultimate conclusion. They had learned to bend reality itself, to step outside the normal flow of time and space. They faced a choice, Hannah said, her voice filled with wonder as she absorbed more of their history. They could transcend physical existence entirely, become beings of pure thought and energy, or they could remain in the normal universe and eventually die like every other species. The images showed the final days of the first wanderers. They had built the Maelstrom sector as their last great work, a test and a gift combined into one impossible creation. Then, one by one, they had stepped out of reality itself, becoming something beyond physical existence. But they did not want their knowledge to die with them, Jin realized, understanding dawning in his voice. So they built this place as a trap and a treasure both. Not a trap, Tae-min corrected, his hands moving through holographic controls. That responded to his thoughts as much as his touch. A filter. The chaos of the maelstrom destroys rigid thinking, breaks apart minds that cannot adapt. Only a species that could think like they did would be able to reach this place. The ancient computers showed them more secrets. Energy sources that drew power from the quantum foam itself. Navigation systems that could predict and ride the currents of space-time. Weapons that could make stars dance or sleep. Construction techniques that built with folded dimensions and crystallized time. Every species that entered the maelstrom was trying to conquer it, Su Young said from her position at the flight controls. They brought their rigid military formations and their logical battle plans. But the maelstrom was not built to be conquered. It was built to be understood, and only we understood it, Hannah whispered out around them. The structure continued to reveal its secrets. Manufacturing bays that could build ships from pure thought. Gardens where plants grew in patterns that existed in 4 dimensions. Libraries that stored not just information but actual experiences, letting them feel what the first wanderers had felt when they first stepped between realities. There are more places like this, Tae-min announced, studying star maps that marked locations across the galaxy. 7 other regions that the Council has marked as forbidden. All of them are gifts from the first wanderers, waiting for someone smart enough and flexible enough to claim them. Jin looked at his small crew, for humans who had stumbled onto the greatest discovery in galactic history. The Council is going to want answers when we return. Will we return? Su Young asked, and there was something in her voice that suggested she was not entirely joking. The structure around them pulsed with patient energy, offering them choices that no human had ever faced before. They could take what they had learned and return to Earth, making humanity the most powerful species in the galaxy. Or they could stay and learn to dance between dimensions like the first wanderers had, becoming something more than human. We have time to decide, Hannah said, watching as construction bays began building devices that would let them establish a permanent base in the maelstrom. The first wanderers waited 40,000 years for someone to find them. They can wait a little longer for us to choose what to do with their gifts. But deep in her heart, she already knew the choice was made. Humans had never been good at walking away from impossible discoveries. 5 years had passed since the first human ship entered the maelstrom sector. and the region looked nothing like the twisted chaos that had terrified the galaxy for 40,000 years. Gleaming stations rode the quantum currents like surfers on cosmic waves, their hulls shimmering with technology that bent reality to human will. Where once only madness existed, now a thriving civilization of explorers made their home among the impossible. Dr. Hannah Kim stood on the observation deck of New Sol Station, watching human ships dance through dimensional rifts that still drove alien observers to fits of terror. She was older now, with silver threading through her black hair, but her eyes still sparkled with the same curiosity that had brought her to this place. The white coat she wore carried the insignia of Director of Maelstrom Research, though she preferred to think of herself simply as the first human to understand that chaos could be home. "Another council delegation is requesting access," reported Admiral Jin Park as he joined her at the massive viewing window. His uniform was new, designed for a rank that had not existed when they first entered the Maelstrom, but his steady presence remained unchanged. "The Veltari are offering 3 star systems just for safe passage through one stable corridor." Hannah smiled, remembering the crystalline being who had warned them away from this place years ago. "What did you tell them?" "The same thing we always tell them," Jin replied with a slight grin. "The Maelstrom chooses its own visitors. Those who can adapt may enter. Those who cannot should stay away for their own safety." A sleek fighter craft landed on the station's docking bay, its hull rippling with colors that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Lieutenant Colonel Su Young climbed out, her pilot's suit glowing with the same impossible energies that powered their ships. She had learned to fly through folded space itself, dancing between realities with the grace of the first wanderers themselves. "The perimeter scouts report more alien observation posts," she announced as she joined them. "The Crystalline Collective has been watching us for months, trying to understand how we navigate the quantum storms. They have 12 research stations positioned just outside the Maelstrom's edge, all of them desperately trying to solve our secrets." Dr. Tae Min approached from the research laboratories, his arms full of artifacts that seemed to shift and change, even as he carried them. As head of xenoarchaeology, he spent his days uncovering the deeper mysteries left by the first wanderers. His latest discovery made even the quantum navigation systems look simple by comparison. "The builders left more gifts," he announced, setting down objects that hurt to look at directly because they existed in too many dimensions at once. "I have found evidence of construction sites in 7 other forbidden regions across the galaxy. All of them abandoned because no species before us could pass the entry tests." Hannah nodded, unsurprised. The first wanderers had been thorough in their preparation, scattering treasures across the galaxy like seeds, waiting for the right species to find and nurture them. Each forbidden zone contained wonders that could advance any civilization by thousands of years. But only if that civilization could think beyond rigid patterns and embrace the beautiful chaos of possibility through the viewing window. They watched as a group of human children played in the station's zero-gravity playground, their laughter echoing through corridors that bent through dimensions. These children had been born in the Maelstrom, raised among impossibilities that they accepted as naturally as breathing. They would grow up thinking that reality was negotiable, that the laws of physics were suggestions rather than absolute commands. "The Council is getting desperate," Jin observed, watching alien ships maintaining their cautious distance from the Maelstrom's edge. "They see us drawing unlimited energy from quantum foam, traveling instantly between any 2 points in space, building with materials that should not exist. They know we have become something they cannot match or understand." "Good," Su Young said with satisfaction. "For 40,000 years, they let fear make their decisions for them. They could have had all of this, but they chose safety over possibility." A new ship approached the station, its design incorporating both human engineering and first wanderer technology. The crew was mixed, humans who had learned to think in multiple dimensions, working alongside the few aliens who had proven flexible enough to adapt to maelstrom conditions. They were rare, these alien allies, but they existed. Not every species in the galaxy was locked into rigid thinking patterns. Sometimes I wonder what we have become, Taemin mused, looking at his own hands, which could now manipulate objects that existed in folded space. We are still human, but we are also something more. Hannah considered his words, watching as reality bent around their station like water around a ship. They had gained powers that made them nearly godlike by council standards, but they had not lost their essential humanity. They still laughed, still wondered, still pushed boundaries, just to see what lay beyond them. We became what we were always meant to be, she said finally. Explorers who refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible. Outside, the quantum storms of the maelstrom continued their eternal dance, and humanity danced with them, having claimed forever a place that the galaxy's greatest civilizations had feared to enter.